Welcome to Small Business Saturday.
Welcome to Small Business Saturdays video series with your host and my husband.
And my dad, Aaron Montgomery.
Join the conversation.
Let's talk some business.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome into Small Business Saturdays. My name is Aaron Montgomery, and you can find me over at oursuccessgroup.com. I just always loved that intro because Lewis recorded that when he was younger, so his voice has changed a little bit, and it just reminds me of that little guy had so much energy. He still has lots of energy. He's still a great kid, but the little guy there, let's talk some business. So thank you for allowing me to enjoy that for just a moment. And I'm excited to talk to you guys today about getting from stasis to action. The 50-cent word, as my friend Eric Campbell said yesterday. The big words are words that we are not very commonly used. A 50-cent word, they're stasis. So we'll talk about that a little bit here. But here's kind of the gist of it, right? The quick summary, right? And we'll use a quote from a gentleman named Zig Ziglar. If you don't know who Zig Ziglar is, I would definitely recommend looking him up. If you're a small business owner, somebody looking to improve and grow and find success, Zig was a great motivational speaker and just had lots of really great thoughts about success. So you'll typically find a lot of great quotes out there from him. And this is probably one of his most famous. So I'm going to go ahead and put it up on screen there with me real quick. But he says this. He says, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. All right. So let that sink in for just one moment there. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. All right. Well, what that means to me is we need to kind of understand what starting means, I guess, is kind of what stands out to me, right? So in the 40 plus years that I've been around small businesses, I've been around small businesses since the first time I was around my dad's accounting firm that I can remember, so that was unfortunately probably about 40 years ago. And, so in that moment as a kid, kind of watching and looking from the outside, looking in to today, when I get to support small business owners through our success group and action, and that's in capital letters, action or lack thereof, has always kind of been the common thread in success or failure. So, that's kind of the idea here today is let's talk about that, but then let's talk about how we can get out of that. I'm going to get some help from my mentor, Jack Canfield, and we'll go through what he thinks about this. And, one of my favorite things to do is kind of dig into that and then just kind of give you my translation. And hopefully between Jack, myself, we start getting some light bulbs to go off that then start creating more action, right? So that's the big goal today. But before we do get into that content today, and if you're somebody that's like, gosh, yeah, I do really need to start taking action, I just want to have a quick reminder that the Success Action Plan is out there. If you go to osg.link/SAP, that's out there and available to you, but it is for a limited time. And I'm not just trying to create scarcity or anything like that. The reality is, after this month, the way that it's set up, it's kind of set up to help support people with a year-long goal. So at the beginning of 2023, for those of you who are tuned into the live version here today, we need to get into that, right? And after January, it doesn't make as much sense. And then I've also had to limit the number of people because we've already had a lot of people very interested in this and got signed up. And there's only so much that I can do each day. So I want to be able to give everybody that gets signed up the value for that. So I just keep sharing this because already working with folks in the Success Action Plan has been really eye-opening for me just to kind of see the movement in a very short space of time, right? And it's so interesting because they're not even really to that point where they're working on their goals. A lot of them are, but just that thought process and the things that we're going through is already moving them forward. And I see them start to tick off little things that have kind of been getting them stuck. And so just these light bulb moments, these epiphany moments have been so incredible for me and for those that are involved. And so I want you to have that too. So that's why I keep sharing this. So let me just give you a little quick breakdown of that here, a little video that I recorded, and then we'll get into how you can save a little bit on that, and then we'll get into the content for today. So here we go. Did you know that when it comes to the success in your life that you have a choice? You can keep just going through the motion and getting the same results over and over again, or you can set yourself up an action plan to create the success you desire. I've utilized my 30 years of experience around small businesses to set up a program, 8 steps, that's going to get you to your idea of success. Are you ready for success? Do you want me to be your guide? All you have to do is just click this button right here, osg.link/SAP, and you can sign up for the Success Action Plan. This is backed by popular demand, and I'm already working with several people to create their action plan, and they're already seeing success. Do you want to be in that group? Again, go to osg.link/SAP. I'm incredibly excited for you to reach your goals in 2023. Are you ready? All right. Well, you can check that out. I know that was a little bit quiet. The last time I recorded was super loud, so I got to figure out what's going on with that. But just go to osg.link/SAP. And then at the end there, you probably saw a coupon code. You can use that one, 2RG. But you also can use SBS. And both of those will get you the same amount of savings. Now, for those of you that are tuned in that are OSG members, there is a special code for OSG members in the private Facebook group that you can find, or just reach out to me. So that'll save you a lot of money. Now, Masters of Success members, you get this as part of being in the Masters of Success. So if you have not gotten started on the Success Action Plan, I'd say jump on that right away. It's not going to take up a whole bunch of your time. There's 8 steps that you go through. I'm there to support you the whole way, give you feedback, get you moving from step 1 to step 2 and whatnot. Kylene says the Success Action Plan has been so beneficial for me to get in the right headspace and be intentional moving forward. I love that you use that word intentional, Kylene, because we're going to talk about that here today. So with that idea of action in mind, right? We're talking about going from stasis to action. You know, the masses, right? The people out there, and unfortunately the statistics show that 85% of small businesses don't reach their idea of success. And so that group, right? The people out there that they think that success is going to happen by osmosis, right? If I watch enough videos, if I just have to get lucky, I have to catch my break, right? If I consume enough information, it's going to get me there, right? That's kind of the mentality that I've seen. But what the reality of that is, what I believe the truth of that is that they're just building excuses so that when they stay in their comfort zone, they can then point to that. Well, I didn't get lucky. I didn't catch a break, right? I didn't have enough of good information. I didn't have enough time to consume enough information, right? And then what they end up doing is they just do a lot of busy work. They a lot of working in the business constantly, just trying to find action, but it's not intentional, right? Kylene mentioned that before, intentional action. So, and that intentional action is intentionally getting outside of our comfort zone. So they end up staying in stasis, right? And that's the word that stood out to me when I was thinking about this. And so let's just start there. Let's start with Merriam-Webster's dictionary definition of what stasis is. And there's different definitions, obviously, in different areas, but stasis is defined by Merriam-Webster's dictionary as a state or period of stability during which little or no evolutionary change in a lineage occurs. All right, one more time. A state or period of stability during which little or no evolutionary change in lineage occurs. So stasis isn't a bad thing, right? I want to make sure that I'm really clear on that, right? That we need that in our cycle. We need to get to that a little bit of stasis, right? Everything, and Kylene's going to laugh at this because I'm going to use a word that my son and I always joke with her about that we don't understand, which is moderation, right? Don't tell Kylene this, but I do actually understand what moderation is. It's just not a strong suit of mine. But everything in little bits, right, in moderation is a good thing. We need that stasis because there's value in that. It's a really great time for us to kind of understand, look from a higher level, look for feedback, do some measuring and evaluating so we can understand what changes we have to make. But what happens is because it's so comfortable, it's calm, it's stable in stasis, that we end up staying there. Oh, there's that comfort zone. Yes, it does feel comfortable. That's the name of it. It's a comfort zone. But the part of that definition that then we have to really be aware of and make sure it doesn't become a blind spot for us is no evolutionary change, right? There's no change. So too much stasis, especially when you're trying to grow a business, can then make growing your business extremely difficult because there's no evolutionary change. And that comfort zone gets more comfortable and you get sucked into it tighter, right? And then what we end up doing is that comfort zone is now holding us back. And we end up doing the same thing over and over again. And then, but for what are going, oh, well, I didn't catch a break, right? Oh, I didn't have enough time. Whatever the excuses that we built in before, whatever those excuses are, but then we're expecting a different outcome, right? And doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome, according to Einstein, is the definition of insanity. So we need to figure out how we can use all of these tools and build momentum, right? And so that's where the action comes in. Action is what makes momentum, but our action has to be intentional action and moving forward, right? And so we can take action, and one other definition that we want to make sure that I'm really clear on is intentional action doesn't mean that it has to be right. It has to be exactly right. Intentional action just means that you're pointing towards something, a goal, typically, right? You're pointing towards something and saying, will this action get me closer to this idea of success? If yes, do it. If no, don't. That's being intentional. You've set that up. You've used your conscious brain, your linear brain to say, will this action work? Right. And so what busy work is just doing whatever, right? And just kind of letting the conscious take over, or I'm sorry, the subconscious take over and going from there. Um, Kylene laughing at me about the word moderation. So thank you. I knew I would give up my secrets here on Small Business Saturdays one of these times. So I did it today. So, all right. So we got all that, right? So stasis, a state or period of stability during which little or no evolutionary change in lineage occurs. And so stasis is good in small bits because it allows time to measure and evaluate and get feedback and kind of understand. But then the important part of the definition that we're talking about here today is no evolutionary change is going to take place. And we have to be taking intentional actions to create momentum. And that's going to lead us to be able to push outside of our comfort zone a little bit. So that's kind of the question in my mind, right? Is how can we kind of start taking that action to push outside of our comfort zone? And the initial steps of this, especially when you're kind of trying to make a big leap, right? Setting a big goal. Immediately after setting a big goal, the fear sets in, right? And oh my gosh, all the things that I have to do, the big stuff. And so that initial momentum, and that's why staying in stasis so as long is difficult, because the longer you're there, then the harder it's going to get outside of your comfort zone again, right? And so we've got to get that ball rolling. And that initial push is the scariest. But here's the great part. As soon as that ball gets rolling, you inside we go, oh my God, this is so much. I'm never going to be able to do it. And if you just keep doing things, though, you'll look back and go, gosh, that was actually way easier than I thought. And now this thing's just rolling downhill nearly without me. all I have to do is just kind of be following it and to keep being intentional about guiding it in the right direction. And now I'm in my pajamas making millions of dollars in the middle of the night, right? So, whatever your goal is, now I'm supporting my community. Now I'm able to provide for my family without working a bazillion hours, 168 hours a week, right? And stuff like that. So you're building that momentum. So at this point, I'd like to bring in my mentor. Now, as much as I'd love to actually just bring Jack on live, and maybe we'll get that someday. I certainly can reach out to him. But for now, we're going to use one of his really great YouTube videos he got here, and I will share that YouTube video in the comments a little bit later. Jerry, I love your question, so I'm going to put a star on that. We're going to come back to that, okay? That's a really great question. Again, if you're somebody that's listening to the podcast version of this, I always recommend trying to get over and find a Saturday that you can join us live. Typically, it's 9 a.m. on Saturdays. We don't get every Saturday, so just check it out, and you can check on our YouTube page or our Facebook page and look and see if there's one coming up. In fact, we're going to be out for the next 2 weeks, but anyhow, so get over there. But so Jerry, we're going to get back to that, but for now, let me start with this video from Jack, and then we will discuss that. And I'm looking forward to your feedback. I'm looking forward to your questions, Jerry. I love the question, and I think we'll be able to better answer it after we hear from Jack here. So let me do that. I'm going to put him on screen, and we will get this rolling.
Hi there, I'm Jack Canfield, and today I'd like to speak to everyone out there who's currently standing on the precipice of their next big evolution in life, but are hesitating to take that scary first step into the unknown. I know it can be hard to move beyond your comfort zone, but the results are always worth it. And so today I'd like to share some tips on how to take the first step on your journey toward achieving your biggest dreams and creating a life that truly fulfills you. As you can imagine, in my line of work, I meet a lot of people who have big hopes and dreams for their lives. And I've helped a lot of people get super clear on what they want their lives to look like. And I've shown them how to create a detailed plan that will take them from where they are currently to where they want to be in their lives. And as they create their vision for the future and gain valuable clarity into what their lives could easily look like, I see how excited they get at the possibilities and the idea of how incredible their lives will become once they do the work required to bring their vision to life. But when they get back home, there's always a certain number of people who take zero action on their plan and end up remaining stuck right where they are. And as you can imagine, this is very upsetting because I know they have what it takes to achieve any goal they can imagine and make their most ambitious dreams a reality. All they have to do is believe in themselves and take action. And this is where they fail. And I don't want this to happen to you. I don't want you to remain stuck where you are when everything you've ever wanted is easily within your reach. And that's why I'm going to tell you how to get unstuck and take that first brave step towards your dreams. Now, my first piece of advice is this. You have to get really clear on what your first step needs to be, and then chunk it down into a series of small bite-sized tasks that are easy to achieve with a single action. Because all too often, what people believe is their first step they need to take actually isn't. They identify a first step that's so large and overwhelming, they don't know what to do first, and so they get stuck in a state of paralysis because they know they want to achieve that big goal, but they have no idea to go about doing it. For example, maybe you think your first big step to creating the life of your dreams is to get out of debt, and that's a noble goal, but it's not your first step. Getting out of debt is far too large a goal to be accomplished in one single action. It's simply too big. It's much more likely that your first step in a scenario will be to do something like make an appointment with a financial advisor or someone at your bank who can then help you understand everything that needs to happen for you to get out of debt. So you can then make a more informed and detailed plan of attack and add all of the mini steps involved in achieving that goal to your monthly calendar. Or maybe you think your first big step is to get a new job. And once again, that step is so big, it can be overwhelming to consider. There's so many tasks involved. First, you need to update your resume, then you need to polish it and make sure it does a great job of showcasing your experience and your skill sets. And then you need to research the jobs that are available. You may even want to hire a headhunter to help you find the job that's right for you. Or you may discover that in order to get your dream job, first you need to acquire some new skills, some new expertise. So researching those skills and learning more about how to acquire them might be your first step. Whatever you think your first step is, if you can chunk it down into a series of smaller steps, then guess what? It's not your first step. It might be your first big goal, but it's not your first step. Your first step is that one small action you can take today to bring you just a few inches closer to your goal. Because if you take one small action like that every single day, you will make consistent progress toward your dreams. And once you've chunked down your first big step into much smaller and more achievable tasks, the next thing I recommend you do is to find an accountability partner who can support you in your efforts and hold you accountable to your stated goals. And when you share your intentions with another person, it increases your commitment to achieving them. So before you even take the first step you identified in the chunking down process, you might want to make your first step finding an accountability partner and let that person know what your intended first step is. And I guarantee that when you contact your accountability partner to let them know you've completed that first step, the pride and the satisfaction you feel will spur you on to identify your next step and then achieve that step as well. And the next thing I recommend you do to ensure that you take that important first step is to commit yourself to making steady and consistent progress rather than trying to attempt rapid progress toward your goals. Too many people fail to achieve their dreams because they try to do too much too fast, and it ends up exhausting them and short-circuiting their motivations and their progress. There's a reason why Aesop's fable about the tortoise and the hare is still so famous today. That's because it shares an important truth, that slow and steady will win the race. Overly confident and easily distracted people every time. So once you've chunked down your to-do list into small bite-sized tasks, be sure to give yourself plenty of time to achieve them. Look at your existing duties and responsibilities and set realistic expectations for yourself. Because setting and achieving a small goal will always make you feel more accomplished and capable than setting and failing to achieve a big goal. Another thing I would encourage you to do is to remember that any step you take toward your goals is probably going to move you further away from your comfort zone. What my colleague Kathleen Seeley likes to refer to as your zone of familiarity, what you're familiar with. And that's okay. In fact, it's better than okay. It's wonderful because it's only when you move beyond your comfort zone that you're capable of growth. And if you want to achieve a higher level of success, growth is essential. Now, I know this can be scary for you. Doing something that's unfamiliar or uncomfortable always is. But I encourage you to experience your fear and take action anyway, because it will only be uncomfortable and scary the first couple of times you do it. And with experience comes familiarity, and with familiarity comes confidence. So taking that scary first step and actually surviving it will prove to you that you have what it takes to take risks and succeed at them. And finally, my last piece of advice is to have faith in yourself and the universe that if you take a risk and make that first step, things will work out as they should, because they always do, even if it's hard for you to see it at the time. Even if you fail, you'll gain valuable knowledge that will help you once again move forward more effectively to your goals. And it's much better to fail and gain that valuable knowledge than it is to never take any risk and remain stuck where you are. So those are a few of my tips on how to move out of the paralysis and take that important first step toward your dreams. Make sure to remember the Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu's famous quote, "A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." And with every step you take beyond that first one, the journey will become easier and easier, and you'll get closer and closer to your goal. So today what I'd like you to do is identify what that first important step is for you, and then share it in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you're committing to achieving in your life. I'd also love it if you'd leave a comment below sharing your biggest takeaway from this video. And if you have any questions about how to achieve success, please let me know and we'll be sure to follow up with you. I want to hear from you and make sure we're helping you overcome your challenges so you can get better results in everything you do. And if you found this video helpful, make sure you like it, share it with a friend who may need it, and subscribe to this channel for more videos like this one.
Okay.
And for additional tools and
So
videos
there we
on
go.
how to overcome your
Let's get that off of there in case it's happening in the background. So taking that in, what what do you guys got? What are your thoughts? What's your what are you seeing there? What stood out to you? Like he said, do you share what your biggest takeaway is? So let's start there. But actually, I'd like to. Jerry had a question before, and I think this actually is a perfect question that it's going to help us all. Do you ever find yourself just going through the motions? I know it doesn't work for me, and I think that that's a really great point, Jerry. It doesn't work for you because to me, again, defining what going through the motions is probably important. But to me, going through the motions is what I talked about earlier on in that busy work, right? We're just doing stuff to do stuff, right? And without any real depth, without any real thought, without any real planning, right? And that's why I'm such a big proponent of making sure that we're looking at our business as a cycle and that we have a plan, right? We have to really kind of get the roots really strong by being clear about things, but then we also have to have a plan and then we can take action. But a lot of times we just go, okay, well, I heard action, right? I want to take action. Okay, cool. And then you go through the motions because you don't take intentional action. So maybe the big thing to think about here is to change the idea of taking action. So maybe today's episode should have been called From Stasis to Intentional Action, right? So that would be my take on that, Jerry. If you find yourself going through the motions, then you probably just need to go back and dig a little bit deeper and go, okay, why am I doing this? What's the intentionality of this, right? And think about that. You had recently asked a question in the private members group and also sent me an email about it. And my reply to you was, I need to know more. I need to go deeper. Right? And so I sent you a volley, and I'm waiting to hear back from you on that. Right. And so get back to me, and then we can set some intentional actions. So I love that, Jerry. Great question, and you are going to crush it because you're heading in the right direction here. So, all right. Well, let's keep talking about it. Wendy says, I used to struggle with putting my goals plan out there for fear of failure and judgment. That's a really good point, right? So it's fear showing up a lot of times, setting those goals and because to achieve a goal, we do need help. We need that accountability part. We need to put it out into the world because success is a team sport, and the team is everybody, right? We need things we can't do this on our own. Yes, we are responsible for our outcomes, but part of that responsibility is having a team around you, people around you that are going to support you and be there for you. So thank you for sharing that, Wendy. That's awesome. All right. Well, let me break down what Jack said a little bit more too. And again, keep popping these things in, and we don't have to go specifically in order. And I'm happy to jump back and forth. And because I think the more we kind of dig into this, the more we kind of go back and forth, the deeper we get, because it allows us to connect with something differently, think about a different perspective, have a new idea that then we can go after. So I think, in what Jack was saying there and in this process of going from stasis to action, talked about kind of that purpose, right? And I think that one of the most important things for us, and I think what I've seen, and I know for me, when I've set goals, right? So I've seen other programs out there where, it's 0 to X or whatever, the $100,000 club or whatever. And those are all great, and that's people out there helping. But at the end of the day, does making $100,000 in a year actually mean anything to me? Not really. I go and look at my strengths and I go, nope, none of that doesn't make it. Now, the money, those types of goals and things might be indicators of you achieving what your purpose is. But a lot of times that's just the easy way out, right? So I certainly have monetary goals because we have to live and we have to, but it's not about, I want to be a billionaire. No, it's about, I need this to be able to take care of my family, to live and stuff like that. But what's the real thing, right? What's the thing that's going to get me there? And for those of you that haven't heard this before, I talk about my strengths quite a bit, but significance is my number one strength. And then restorative is my number two strength. So that's making an impact and solving problems. And so for me, that's providing actionable resources. And so how do I measure that, right? So getting clarity of that purpose. But what happens for a lot of us when we set a goal is we are getting feedback, which is great, but then we're going, oh, okay, well, I have to have $100,000 as a small business owner to even say that I'm a success, right? If I'm not a $100,000 club, then I'm not a success. Well, who said that? That's not a law of any sort, right? What success is for you is entirely for you. And nobody else can change that. And so just because somebody else is doing it doesn't mean that that's what your goals has to be. Now you can learn from that. That can give you an idea or perspective or different way to go about your goals. But if you haven't taken the time just to figure out your purpose and your why and what really kind of drives and motivates you, then none of this really matters. You are going to be just doing busy work and spinning your wheels and going through the motions, as Jerry mentioned there, right? So that's the very first thing. You've got to really clarify the reason, and ultimately, there's a simple explanation for that. And that simple explanation is our reasons have to be bigger than our excuses, right? The excuses are what keeps us in our comfort zone. The reasons are what pushes us outside of our comfort zone. So our excuses have to be bigger than our reasons. And so when you look at that, right, then from there, then Jack started talking about chunking it down. And when he talked about it, he was very emphatic about the fact that we're talking about really chunking it down, right? Like, what is the very first step? So maybe, and this is just a way to kind of simplify this, this isn't necessarily a goal, but maybe one of the intentional actions you need to take is we just did the finding customers training inside of our success group. And one of the action steps to that was to be able to reach out to a specific lead. Right. And so maybe the action that you need to take is you need to reach out to that lead, but that could, and I know for a lot of people, including myself, can be the scary part. And when we go, okay, nope, I'm not going to take action. I can't do that. But, well, okay. If we chunk it down even more, right? So maybe the first action is just to go, okay, I know I need to pick up the phone and call the customer and reach out to or the potential customer and ask them for the order. What's the first thing I can do? Oh, here we go. I can pick up my phone. Okay, I've taken an action. Okay, you did that, Aaron. You could do that. Yeah, you've got this. Okay. Okay. All right. And then I'm going to look up their phone number and I'm going to type it into my phone. Whew. Okay. There's a second action. I just did that. Excellent. Yes, Aaron, great job. Okay. You can do that. Whew. Making that call. Okay. You know what? Hold on. I'm going to call my friend. Hey, friend. Hey, yeah, I've got to call this customer and I'm trying to figure out exactly how to open this conversation. Yeah. So here's what I'm thinking about saying. I'm going to say blah, 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 blah. What do you think? Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. You're right. Okay. Yeah. I'll change that up. Awesome. Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for saying that I can do that. Yeah. I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. All right. Thanks. Okay. There's action number 3, right? Next action. Dial. Oh, it's their voicemail. Hi there, Mr. and Mrs. Customer. Hi, this is Aaron Montgomery from our success group. I was just calling to see if there's anything that I can do to support your business. Here's my phone number. Here's the way to contact me back. Here's something that I'd like to offer you for free, whatever that is, right? Yeah, so if you call me back, I appreciate that. Holy cow, I just called a customer. Now, I know I need to follow up and I need to reach that customer. So, right, what's the next step? Right. So that's what we're talking about when it's chunking it down, really chunking it down. What's your first step? And you don't have to know all the steps, right? There, as you saw in there, right? There's going to be some guidance in the feedback, right? I called a friend and asked, oh, change that up. Okay, yep. Oh, yeah, maybe I should do that. Okay. Oh, yeah, you're right. Okay. And then, leaving that message, you're going to have this like epiphany. Oh, well, gosh, it's cool. I left a message, but I can also go walk in, right? Maybe it's going to be easier if I just go walk into their place of business, that kind of thing. So that's kind of that next part he was talking about, really chunk it down. So let's see what we got here. Jerry says, a written checklist of things I want to accomplish works best for me. I need to do it every day. As Jack said, even a small step can move you in the right direction. Absolutely. And but I will be insistent on the fact that that written checklist needs to align with your goals, not somebody else's goals, which means it has to align with your why. And if you haven't really taken the time to understand what your why is, then it's going to be a struggle. There's just no two ways around it. It doesn't mean that you're not going to get there, but you're going to be discovering your why at the same time. And so you're going to be able to build plenty of excuses. And as soon as we can stop building excuses and complaining and commiserating, the faster we're going to get to our idea of success. So Chuck says, my biggest problem is looking at my daily schedule overwhelms me. Okay. Hey, I totally understand that, Chuck. You are, first and foremost, you have to give yourself some grace, right? And one of the things that Jack was talking about is we look at these things and they're just so overwhelming. It's our daily schedule. And how am I going to do that? But the reality is, once you get into flow, once you start taking action, you're going to get a lot more done than you ever thought. It's getting to that place of action. So yesterday for me, my schedule was pretty busy. I started with 2 regular guys in the morning. Actually, no, not true. I went back. I started up early because I had a men's group that I'm a part of that was fantastic, right? And I really enjoy that. And then I got adjusted by my chiropractor. Then I had to kind of get things set up for 2 regular guys and make sure that it had everything there, do some other things, check off some other things off the list. Then I had the half. Then Eric and I talked for a little while. Then I had another call. And then I had some things that I needed to try to get done. I didn't get a whole lot done because I wasn't focused. And then I had a get together with a friend that was only supposed to be an hour and ended up being 2.5 hours. And then Kylene and I had Unlock Your Potential last night. And by that time I was exhausted and I'm going, wow. So when I woke up this morning, I was in that space of, I was just in a good space. And so I said, gosh, let me take advantage of this. I got more done from about 7 o'clock until 8:30 before we did this than I'd probably gotten done all week, right? I was able to move a whole bunch of things across the finish line. So I get my point here, Chuck, is first and foremost, give yourself some grace and understand that we're not going to get everything done all the time. But secondly, as I went through my busy schedule yesterday, I still found things that I could do. And I said, I've got to do this. Yes, maybe I've only got 15 minutes. I ended up being about 5 minutes late to my meeting with my friend, meeting him for coffee. And I felt bad about that. But I knew I had to get that stuff done, and he was completely fine with it. And I explained it to him. I said, "Hi, so sorry that I'm late, Dan. I had to get this project done, and this is what I was working on." And he's like, "Oh man, that's so cool." So it went from me feeling bad about being late to being able to start the conversation about kind of some of the things I was working on, and then he got to share what he was working on. Right. So that's what I would think about, Chuck, is just what can I get done, and then celebrate those things. Right. And so my biggest problem looking at my daily schedule overwhelms me. So maybe break that down, right? So instead of looking at your daily schedule, let's say, okay, what does the next 3 hours look like? And here's the other thing. If you can kind of look at that the day before, you'll find those slots in there that I can just do one thing right here, right? I can do that. Maybe I've got to turn off the television for 30 minutes and just use that time. Maybe there's something that I'm doing that I'm going to have to sacrifice for right now, but I know, because it's my reason, my purpose, my mission, that in the long run, it'll totally be worth that little bit of sacrifice that I might have to make, but just chunking that down, right? So if the daily schedule is too much, okay, what's the next hour look like? Let's just start there. What's the next 15 minutes look like? All right. Okay, Aaron's going to talk for maybe another 20 minutes. And then right after that, right, I'm going to get out of here. Or maybe, hey, I got to go do something. I'll come back to this later, Aaron, right? So, because you're consuming at this point, right? So that's okay. All right. So hopefully that answered that. You guys are fantastic. Thank you so much for helping just keep this moving in the right direction. All right. So let's get back to the video that Jack had there real quick and kind of get through the rest of the steps as I saw them. But you again, keep this stuff coming. These are fantastic. So second part was kind of accountability. And he mentioned accountability partner. I love that idea. I will be your accountability partner. I'm happy to do that. No charge. All you have to do is reach out to me on Volley, and I will be that accountability partner for you. Happy to do that. right? And it actually, in a lot of ways, fills me up. Remember, my strength and my purpose is that significance, which means making an impact. So if I can help you, and it's a true help, not just, I'm not searching for compliments or any of that kind of stuff. It's like, if I know I can help you, and it really will allow you to move up, that is actually success for me, right? So finding that accountability partner, and if I can be that for you, I'm happy to do it. Just go to the link, osg.link/volley, or you can go to consultaaron.com and check that out. That'll take you directly there, and you can just send me a direct message and say, okay, Aaron, I need some accountability. Here's the action I'm going to take today. And then tomorrow you report back and say, okay, here, I took that action, here's what happened, or I wasn't able to take that action, here's what I learned, right? And notice there that the accountability has nothing to do with you going, gosh, I didn't do it. Bringing the energy down. It's, I did it, celebrate. I didn't do it, but here's what I learned. Up, 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 right? And that's it. That's it. There's nothing else. We don't need, if you need a little bit of that commiserating, I totally get it, right? And we can do that, but just know my personality, I want to get out of that as quickly as possible. All right. So that's why it's a struggle for me sometimes. We talked about my strength significance. One of my low strengths, and then this was a little bit horrifying to me at first, was empathy, right? I have a lot of care for other people, but I have a hard time putting myself in other people's shoes. And so that's something that I intentionally work on and I get better at, right? So all that stuff, right? So there you go. Okay. So accountability. The other, if you really want to turn this thing up to 10 or 11 or whatever it is on the volume dial there, and really get accountability, get into a mastermind group. The Masters of Success, they set goals and they hold each other accountable, and they learn and they grow. And the progress that the Masters of Success people are making is incredible to me. I had an idea when Todd and I first started talking about putting the Masters of Success together. Where it's gone and what it's become is well beyond anything I could have ever imagined. And that has everything to do with the people that are involved in it. They're action takers. They get after it. They have challenges. They overcome them, come and go. And there's just a lot of love and support there. And so there's that ability to celebrate. There's that ability to be accountable to somebody else and all that other stuff. So that was the other part, accountability. Find that for yourself. And then I love the fact that he talked about slow and steady, right? And because to me, that is that momentum that I'm always talking about, right? I want to take intentional action, so I build momentum, and taking that action. And when we talk about intentional action, again, it doesn't have to be the exact right action, because any action is going to give us feedback. But take that action each day, and then leave those things behind that we talked about. Leave the excuses, leave the complaining, leave the commiserating to others, right? There's plenty of people out there that are doing that. Since I've become aware of that, right? I grew up in complaining was the norm, right? That's how I grew up. And that's okay. That was just kind of the way our family was. But I've decided that I really want to be intentional about not being a part of that. Does that mean I do it all the time? No. I find myself all the time going, I want to one up the person because I had it worse. Woe is me. And try to recognize that. But once I started recognizing that, then I saw how prevalent it was across the board, especially in Facebook groups, especially in the way our world operates today. It's who's got it worse, right? And the reality is nobody's got it worse. Everybody has everything that they need for success. They just haven't chose to go and take the action, take the intentional action to get there. So slow and steady, momentum, intentional actions, leave the excuses, the complaining, the commiserating to others. There's plenty of that out there. So you don't need to feed into that. And it's not, again, not to say, oh, I was complaining, I should beat myself up for it. Nope. Just like accountability, it's just about what can you learn? How can you grow? And then the last part is to trust your gut. right? And he talked about faith and instinct and right. The failure, the fail. One thing I've really enjoyed as I've kind of been looking at success and understanding success through our success group here is that you can find meaning on both sides of everything, right? And so traditionally, failure has this very negative connotation, bad, right? But if you can just change that up and find some fun ways to remember the change to the thought. And one of the fun ways I like is the acronym method, right? So fail, if you change that to an acronym instead of a word, you get first attempt in learning. So then what does a failure feel like, right? If it's just the first attempt in learning, if you're just learning and growing, then I want more failure. I want to learn and grow more, right? I want to fail more often. I want to fail faster, people will say, right? So just changing that perspective on that. And then the other one is fear, right? Fear does hold us back from getting outside of our comfort zone. And again, we have a very negative connotation of the word fear. And so if we look at fear and change that into an acronym, fear becomes a fantasized experience appearing real. Oh, that's a different way. Okay. Yeah. I'm just imagining that. Yeah. Now, okay. Fear's good. It's just an imagined thing because if I understand that fear is a fantasized experience appearing real, then I can fantasize an experience appearing real that is a positive outcome just as easily as I can fantasize an experience becoming real that's a negative outcome. Right. So now fear doesn't have to have that negative connotation and we can make that choice. Right. And I don't think Jack said this specifically like this, but I did get this from him. So I have to make sure I give him credit for it. But you only gain self-confidence by surviving a risk. Right. And that risk is getting beyond your comfort zone. That risk is facing a fear and doing it anyways. Right. And that's the only way you're going to be able to gain self-confidence. And anything that you're confident in doing was hard the first time, felt awkward the first time, was yucky the first time, whatever it is. And as he said, the more times you do it, the more confident you'll become in it and the better you'll get at it. Right. So that was kind of the last part. Again, if you guys have any other things that you want to share, please jump in and share. But I want to kind of close this out from my side here with, again, going back to that accountability. So those of you that are tuned in live, I want you to put in the comments here, what is the first action you're going to take? What is the first action you're going to take? All right. And then from there, if you'd like to utilize, I like utilize better than use. So if you'd like to utilize me as an accountability partner, if you just go to consultaaron.com and you're going to send me a message on there, it's going to take you to Volley. And I would love a video message so I can really understand it a little bit deeper level, but you can also record an audio message or you can even type a text in there. All right. So just go to consultaaron.com and then send me a message with the action you're going to take. Right. And so maybe that's on Monday. Monday, you say, hey, here's the action I'm going to take today. On Tuesday, you follow up and say, I did the action or I didn't do the action. And here's what I learned. Right. Again, at high level, we're not going, I didn't do the action. I'm so bad. No, nope. That intentionality is so important. All right. So what is the action you are going to take? And let's just use the comments here and just get this kicked off here. What is the action you're going to take today? So if you're a live viewer, maybe you're catching the replay, just put it into the comments right now. If you're catching this on the podcast, head back to our YouTube channel or our Facebook channel and look up From Stasis to Action and type it in the comments. Start that accountability right now today. All right. And then while you guys are doing that, while you guys are putting that into the comments there, let me just share a little bit about, so I think I mentioned it earlier, but I'm going to be off the live shows for the next 2 weeks. So next week, actually on Friday, I leave for Austin, Texas. I know a lot of people are actually heading out to the Impressions Expo in Long Beach, but I'm actually heading to Austin, Texas. I get to be part of the MOVA 14 gold volleyball team, and they're heading out to Austin to play in a qualifier event for nationals. So it's a big volleyball tournament down there in the convention center of Austin. There'll be probably 100 courts and whistles blowing and kids screaming, and it'll be a blast. And there are also some college volleyball teams playing there. So I'm going to be Mr. Volleyball this next weekend, and I'm really looking forward to that. And then we'll be away the next weekend after that. I can't remember. I haven't looked that far ahead yet, but I can't remember what it is. But I will not be available that Saturday. So we're just going to take those 2 weeks off. And then I'll be back on February 4th. And before I tell you what, okay, perfect. Jerry's starting. So Jerry got us started. I'm still waiting for the rest of you guys to put in what is the action. If you're tuned in live, this is a requirement to keep tuning in live. I'm just saying that, but you can keep tuning in live. But I really think that if you really want success, take this step, just like Jerry did. So we'll get to that in 1 second, Jerry. So Small Business Saturday for the live version will be back on February 4th. And I'm going to have a very special guest. I'm going to have one Miss Kylene Montgomery, the yoga instructor extraordinaire, and my wife. I'm fortunate to call her my wife. She's going to be joining me, and we're going to be discussing creating positive anchors. So I'm gonna leave that there for right now, because I think you guys are going to want to dig into this. And this is the other side of this, right? I mentioned celebrating a little bit, but creating those positive anchors is going to be a new intentionality for us. So I'm going to leave that there. And in the meantime, if you need a fix, I'm going to put this in the comments here. You can go to the podcast version. The podcast side of this is getting a facelift right now. So really just some older stuff, but I'm hoping that that'll get kicked off here starting soon, and you'll see kind of a new face of this. But if you go to Small Business Saturdays, make sure you put an S at the end of Saturdays. So smallbusinesssaturdayspodcast.com. You can listen to old episodes there and search and find and just go back and play it on your drive, or listen to it while you're going for a walk, or maybe you go to the gym, or you need something in the background while you're doing work, or whatever it is. I hope Small Business Saturdays podcast can help you. So I invite you to go check that out, and let's get into the action. So Chuck has stepped up as well. So we got Jerry and Chuck have stepped up, and they've put in their action. And Jerry, here's what we're going to do. I want you to change this, and you don't have to type it in there, but I want you to change this for yourself, right? I just want you to put the first part of this: set up a new computer, period. So that's your action. You're going to set up a new computer. I know that, that it's been sitting on your desk for 2 months. Okay. That's the past. We don't have to worry about that. You're going to set up a new computer, period. All right. You got it. And as Chuck says, you got it. You got this, Jerry. Perfect. And then Chuck is going to work on part 1 of SAP, which is a success action plan. Chuck has taken that action and fantastic. Chuck, if I can give you one suggestion too, and how to change that wording a little bit. Here's the reality. Here's the truth. Language matters. Language is what talks to our conscious is where language comes from. And that's our intention, right? That's what we can control. Our subconscious doesn't actually necessarily able to speak in language, but that language that we use does affect how our subconscious is going to act, right? So we have to be very intentional about the language that we use and things. And so that's why I always want to kind of come back and say, here's a suggestion that might work a little bit better for you. So Chuck, if I can do that, and again, this is not a knock, it's not a failure, any of those things, right? Instead of working on part 1, I would say, maybe it's complete part 1, but have some actual thing that you can, because working on it just implies that you're going to be doing a little bit, right? And there's no real end to that. So I want you to have some sort of end. So maybe it's either working on part 1 is not necessarily going to give you that finality. And so if it's complete part 1, and you feel like you can do that today, great. If that needs to be chunked down, then what could it be, right? And so maybe it's, part of what part 1 is getting clarity on our reasons. So maybe it's taking some effort and action to, whatever kind of completing something in there is, maybe it's writing down my strengths. That could be an action that you can take today in breaking that down. So really awesome, Chuck. Get, wherever it is for you, that's exactly what it needs to be. But I just wanted to throw that little suggestion out there. Okay, everybody else, I'll wait. We haven't got to a full hour yet, but Jerry and Chuck have stepped up. I know there's other live viewers. I can see it. So if you were a live viewer, I'm sure maybe it's in the background, but just take a moment, right? Can you take a break real quick from whatever you're doing and run over to a screen and type something in? If you're on a phone watching, maybe you can use the voice type. I love Google Board on my phone because I can use voice typing. And even if it doesn't make sense, well, that's fine, right? So who else has got a action that they're going to take, an intentional action that they're going to take today? All right. So I'll wait for you on that for just a moment. I want at least one more person, right? With the number of people that are tuned in live here, we should have more than Jerry or Chuck who are ready to step up. All right. So I'm calling you out. Is that okay? Everybody good with that? I'm okay with that. So I get to be the one up here with the microphone. So, all right. Well, what else? While I'm waiting. Okay, there we go. Facebook user, thank you so much. I'm sorry that I don't know who it is, but I will go back and look because I do want to, again, help with the accountability. I'm not just calling you out to call you out. I want to be able to support you. So clean shop. And just again, as we talked about with Chuck, again, maybe just thinking about kind of changing that language just a little bit. I know you're just popping in because you're probably working in the background here or whatnot, but have some specifics to what that is, right? Like, does clean shop mean that you can eat off the floors, or does clean shop just mean that, the desk is organized, or what is the finality of when will you know that the shop is clean, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So we'll get some specifics around that. So I love it. Great job. Again, just sharing some perspective and feedback. Kylene says, I'm going to share my step 5 of the SAP. Awesome. All right. Good job, Kylene. And I like how you're very specific. You're going to share it. And if those of you that are doing the SAP, you understand what sharing means. Part of the program is that you share it with me, and then I can, again, help with accountability, help with perspective, help with these types of things. Okay. All right. There we go, you guys. Thank you so much. Leah, excellent. Leah says, hi, I missed the question. Okay. Perfectly. I appreciate you jumping in here. So the question was, or what I'm asking for is, we talked about taking an action. What's the first action? What's the very chunk down thing that I can do right away that is an intentional action that's going to get me closer to my goal, to my idea of success, right? And so what's something that you need to do that'll push you a little bit outside of your comfort zone, but is an action that you can take. You can believe that you can accomplish it today. So that's what the question is. Leela, sorry, I said Leah. Leela, sorry, I apologize for mispronouncing your name. So Leela, that's what I'm looking for. So if you want to take a moment to just come up with something and go with your gut on this, right? If we're thinking about it, that's setting an intention, right? If it's just to do busy work, then that's not really setting intention. That's just kind of on autopilot, right? And Jerry called it going through the motions. I love that too, Jerry. But what I'm looking for is an intentional action that you're going to take today. I'd like you to share it in the comments just to kind of get some taste of this accountability. And then we will go from there. So excellent. Thank you for asking. Wonderful. All right. And I'm going to wait for that, Leela. So we'll wait for that. If anybody else wants to jump in, please do. And there we go. Have my shop organized with a better workflow. Okay. And so maybe, Leela, you were the Facebook user. I'll have to check, but that's good. I like that. Organized with a better workflow. Just make sure that organized is a specific thing that you can kind of put your finger on, right? So it's not an open-ending project, right? So organized is a great word, but what does that specifically mean to you? And better workflow, again, fantastic. But I want you to have some meaning to you, right? It doesn't matter to me. Whatever the meaning is to you is right, but to kind of have that specific, I can it's kind of like I've got to be able to check it off, because then I got to be able to celebrate it, because then that'll help me go, yep, I survived that risk. I did that task. I moved forward. I overcame. I got outside of my comfort zone a little bit, right? Whatever that is. So wonderful. Good job. I'm going to just give you guys all a round of applause. Fantastic. If you're putting in the comments later, you're still going to get that accountability. So good job. And thank you guys so much again. The live version will be off for a couple weeks here, back on February 4th with Kylene to discuss creating positive anchors. But in the meantime, make sure to check out the podcast version over at smallbusinesssaturdayspodcast.com. You can just have that playing in the background or whatever works for you. Also, one more thing here, and I will see if I can put it and talk at the same time. But if you have not signed up for the Success Action Plan and it's of interest to you, take a look, right? And I will put this in there. If you're an OSG member, then there is a significant discount code in the private members group where you can reach out to me and we'll get that for you. If you're not, that's totally okay. You can use the discount code SBS when you go over to osg.link/SAP, right? And so there'll be a red button that you push to take you to the payment deal. But before you put in your payment details, just scroll down to the bottom and you'll see a place where you can apply a discount code. So SBS is the discount code if you're a non-member. If you are a member, then certainly jump in to the Facebook group, the private members group, and find that. Or like I said, just reach out to me and I can get it to you right away. Okay. All right, you guys. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate you tuning in, and I appreciate everybody that tuned in live and all of the feedback and action and just being part of this. This is a community of growth. I'm so proud to be able to be part of this with you guys, and I can't wait until we're back on February 4th. So make sure that you put that on your calendar, back at 9 o'clock on February 4th with Kylene. In the meantime, check out the podcast. In the meantime, reach out to me. osg.link/volley will take you over to the volley community, or you can go to consultaaron.com and direct message me there. All right. So there we go. From stasis to action. You guys have a great rest of your Saturday, and we'll talk to you again soon.